Okay, members and friends, came back to court today. All right. Basically what happened was, last night I had to take my daughter's boyfriend, which is the father of my grandchild, his dog to the vet. I have a vet, a very good vet that, that works well with me, and that's where I need to start with my collection boxes. So hopefully I'll get one next week, and we'll just start going for it, right? Because it's been too long, too long. And anyway, I had to take a pit bull that had some hip problem, and the father couldn't do that for himself, right? So I took the dog in last night, and out of my little welfare check, I paid $500 to put the dog to sleep after it had some x-rays, and it was determined that it had cancer, and that, it was right up into the joint of the hip bone, and it was spreading throughout the body, and it had arthritis, and, in terms of, operations and what the dog would have gone through, and the age of the dog was 8-9 years old, and it was just easier just to put, and better for the dog, to put the dog to sleep. So I took care of that last night. So that's what I did yesterday, and, my daughter was pretty sporadic yesterday, and it was very hard to communicate with her, and so, anyway, I went to go get her this morning, and she didn't want to come with me to court, and, her and her boyfriend were saying they were going to go catch a bus, and they would meet us there, and I'm like, well, come on, let's go. So by the time we got to court, she never showed up, and the court, they appointed a duty counsel, like a, they appointed a counsel from their, their team of lawyers there, right, to, what do you call it, represent her. So, that gave me a window of opportunity to talk to him. And of course, I'm talking to him, like I would with anybody else. And, he seemed to be, he wasn't so perturbed by it, right? He wasn't, I'm a little more aggressive than I was at the court. But even still, when I got something to say, the hands start going, and the voice starts, forming itself around the words, and I should have been a public speaker. I should have been, but I'm not. I'm just a mom and a grandma, right? So, basically, in the end, the court got put off for 3 weeks. Well, the social worker is practicing on her practicum because she just got out of school. This is her first real case. She's smiling through the whole thing, upsetting my kids. Because she's laughing through the whole thing. Big old smile on her face like a Christy Clark. Those fake politician smiles. Well, that's what she's flaunting around in the courthouse, right? And in the halls. I guess it's supposed to make her look friendly, right? You can trust her, eh? And I don't know what's happening in 3 weeks, but that gives me a day or two, assuming that I can catch up to my daughter, because you have to remember, she's spiraling down. Okay? She's not going up. She's going down. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. And try and take her and her boyfriend together at the same time, all the way out in Langley, which is like a half-an-hour drive. Fine. It'll be a nice little drive. But the point is, how am I going to catch up to them at an arranged appointment to drive them all the way out there, to make arrangements with the lawyer so that they can, agree to have my grandson stay with me. Although the lawyer told me that they're building a case against me. And they're just, going through whatever, right? Because you remember, they're following me around, I took my little grandson one time shopping to the grocery store after I dropped my dad off to go see his wife. And, because his mom let him eat anything in the store, whatever, it comes time when it's like, no, like we're going to go pay for the grapes, and we're going to go wash the grapes, and then you can have the grapes. So I had to struggle with him and everything else, get the cash register, and he's screaming, and I'm trying to hang on to him, carry the thing, pay for the grapes. I'm trying to walk him off to the back. He's screaming and he's wiggling, and I'm like, no, we're going to go wash your hands, and then you can eat the grapes, right? Finally, we get into the washroom, wash his hands, I give him the grapes, he's quiet. Okay, now, I know these people were following me around in freaking Value Village, following me around at Save On Foods, just following me around. Because they got to build their little case and discredit the grandma. Catch me doing something. Buying grapes. I'm trying to teach my grandson that he can't just eat what's in the grocery store without paying for it. And how I know is because, you know, when I go off and do something, all of a sudden there was a little bag of Smarties or something, like, you know, Skittles or whatever you call those things, like, you know, with the, from the bulk section, bag with a little twist tie. It was in my buggy. I didn't put that there. Sierra liked to feed her kid that. I am not one to be giving candy all the time. So, you know, that's their way of intimidating, right? To show you that, you know, you're being watched. You know, be careful. You're being watched. You're a criminal. You know, it's a fucked up state that we live in. It's pretty messed up. So they got some, you know, they got the goods on me. I was letting her do drugs. Okay. Not quite. I was too busy cleaning house. I was too busy working in my yard. I was too busy trying to maintain on keeping my 17-year-old on track. You know, and stop feeling sorry for herself and trying to fight for independence with fucking counselors that couldn't give a rat's ass about anything except maybe their damn paycheck, as they're convincing her that I'm the crazy one. So that she'd, you know, fight more at home. Instead of go home, listen to your mom. Why don't you help her out in the yard? You know, why don't you help her sweep the floor? You know, why don't you, you know, help take out the garbage? Help do laundry. Help do something. You know, just don't go home and say, gimme, gimme, gimme. You know, and not do nothing. But then you had perfect role modeling for that. You know, my dad's wife moved in, didn't do nothing. I don't have to do nothing. Why should I? It's not my mess. I don't leave a mess. I don't do, never mind half the mess downstairs was her mess. Right? Never cleaned a damn day in it once, the whole time she lived with me. So my kids just kind of adopted that philosophy even more so. Right? Why should I? It's not my mess. I don't have to. You do it. So I don't see, you know, and as for, you know, her doing drugs, that's what methadone clinics are for, and doctors when they go to get the script, because she's supposed to take a pee test every week. That's not my responsibility. I didn't sign up to be a fucking lab. Okay? You want me to test her fucking pee in the house? Bring me a lab. You know, set me up a lab and give me the kit. You know? Destroy the parent-child relationship. My daughter was on recovery. Okay? She wasn't under punishment through me. So the first inclination of something, my daughter suffers from bipolar, which when under due stress can bring on the symptoms of drug addiction without her being addicted to drugs. So you don't know when she's doing drugs because you can't tell. The only time you can tell is like in the state that she is in right now, which is like, you know, the worst of the worst and continuing to spiral down. Like she's totally just out of it. She's devastated, first of all, and that's what they wanted to do. You know, if you were to see her today, you wouldn't even recognize her. You wouldn't recognize her in personality. You wouldn't recognize her in the look of her body, in the look of her face, in the way she communicates. If you were to compare her today to what was going on in the summer, right up until almost December. Okay? Because they came in, said something, went downstairs, talked to her, so she was sitting and waiting for the appointment to go for that, you know, program. Okay? Again, that's what the methadone clinic where they take the pee is for, not the grandparent. Okay? My job as a grandparent was to make sure that Andre was fed, handled properly, not abused physically, emotionally taken care of in terms of, you know, being happy and being educated in the appropriate manners with his books and stuff like that, and what kind of, you know, visuals that he was watching on the computer in terms of baby Einstein, you know, encouraging my daughter not to give him too much candy and to try and give him good food, which she did for the most part, but she also liked to give him a lot of candy, so that would cause conflict. But not to stand at the door and say every minute of the day for 28 months where you're going, what you're doing, and why. And when you walk in the door, give me a pee test so that I can confirm 100% that you are doing fucking drugs. And if you're doing drugs, let me warn you, you're going to get caught. Because that's what that safety net is in there with that pee test. That's not my responsibility. That's the clinic's test. That's the responsibility of the clinic. Okay? So I'm not taking any responsibility if she was running off doing fucking drugs and I didn't catch up on it fast enough. Okay? But that's the game. They gotta blame somebody for almost getting her murdered, for kicking her out. Now, the lawyer did say they had no right to kick her out. And what does a dog do when it's in a corner? It attacks. And they know how my family works. When my kids don't want to take responsibility for anything, the first person that's the problem is me. It's my fault. You know, I'm not telling you the information in the correct way. I shouldn't talk about institutional racism, one kid in my house says. Don't bring race into it, but I'm going to. This is Jim Crow. This is 1876 to 1965 that never got wiped off the freaking books. Equal but separate. We're being treated as we're supposedly equal, but we're being separate. We're being separated. We're being separated I'm 51 years old. This is the only grandchild that I have. This may be the only grandchild that I will have for a very long time, because I encourage my children to be responsible and not to procreate and create more added problems into our society so that the crabs in the crab barrel can just devour them up for their, expendable incomes. I warn them. And so far, I've only had one born. And they've taken that away from me because they got something to prove with the new little social worker that's got to learn the ropes. Well, she's smiling up in the courthouse with anybody that's willing to see as my kids are fuming inside and on the verge of tears. And they don't care. They think it's a joke. And then to say that we are being treated as equals is bullcrap. And then to say that it's my fault is bullcrap. I cleaned up after 9 people in this house for over 2 years. I moved them around from room to room to accommodate their needs as they changed. I did 99.9% of the fucking work around here. And through all of that, my grandson thrived. He was developing language skills, putting words together to start forming sentences. He knew who he was. He had a strong sense of love, a strong sense of connection. He felt safe with us, and they took that away from him, and they have now started to reprogram him and erase his memories of his true family so they can play politics and learn how to be a good social worker. And where does this leave me? Well, assuming that I can get my daughter and her boyfriend to go see their lawyer, because we know that, again, my daughter can go missing at any time. She's not out of that woods yet. Right? Because these people think it's a fucking joke. It's not their daughter. It's not their life. And they're banking on that. Well, they scour through their papers looking for any little bit of dirt that they can find on me. Well, I got a whole fucking yard full of fucking dirt. Go out there and look for it. I'll see you in the summertime in my compost piles. There's my dirt. And with their permission, he can put a motion forward to let me have custody or whatever, temporary custody, which is all I've ever been asking for from the day fucking one, right? Since my little grandbaby's been born. As a matter of fact, April 27, 2010, I tried to go for custody, but he wasn't born yet then. So I couldn't do it then, right? We know that story, right? With a big long list of conditions like a fucking criminal court thing, when they go to criminal court and they get all their conditions. Well, at least this time I'll get something in writing versus, well, call us if if you think something's wrong. Well, I don't know. My daughter's got bipolar issues. She's got anger management issues. She's recovering from addiction. She's got mental damage. She's got a boyfriend that never leaves her alone. She's got social services every now and then popping up and, confusing her and doing whatever. Right? She had a lady that was down there, didn't give a shit about her, right? And just wanted to fight with her all the time along with me and everybody else in the house, just so that the husband could choose sides. So under the circumstances, she did really well. Like, really well. But now, it will be amazing if I can get her there. Because I never know from one day to the next what I'm going to be talking to at this point when I'm trying to deal with her. Okay? That's like crazy. And the only reason she's with her boyfriend right now, and I'll tell you why she's with her boyfriend, because if she leaves her boyfriend, she's back out there, up on the front room, on the fucking hard concrete, street, waiting either one for the cops to fucking harass her and drive her off and do whatever they do and leave her off in the bush someplace, because they don't want them out here anymore. The mayor's trying to get rid of them, right? Or she's gonna get, wooed to go to this house and get high and, cry her baby blues, and then they're gonna get, just get her high one time with a good dose of whatever, and they got her. And she's off to the fucking, what do you call those things? When they put the slave up there and they sell them off. Auction block. They got her back on the auction block. So that's why she stays with this boyfriend that she can't stand. Because at least with him, in all his sickness, he does actually try and keep her away from that. Because he knows these people are out there trying to do that to her. So social services haven't left them with too many choices. And she won't come home. I've told her, come home now, Sierra. Just come home. She won't. Because she doesn't want to ruin it for the baby. So these people are literally killing my daughter. Literally killing my daughter. So my choices are, well, obviously I'm going to try and get her to her lawyer. I'm going out in the streets next week to start begging for money for lawyers. Because the lawyer I spoke to today said I don't need one, but I'm sorry. I don't need two. He says you only need one. No. I need two. I need two lawyers. Because when I get my grandson back, I'm suing the provincial government for this. Okay? Because they almost got my daughter murdered. Okay? They can blame a new social worker. But at the end of the day, there's a supervisor moving this along. Okay? This is morally unethical. Morally unethically wrong what they're doing. It's a sham. It's a charade. Okay? I had 5 kids. I have never had social services in my life until my daughter became a drug addict. And that was through the justice system. And it wasn't even social workers. It was youth counselors. Right? Through the justice system. I have never, ever had social workers in my life because I have been a good parent. I'm sorry I couldn't control my drug-addicted daughter all these years. But I never gave up on her. And I'm not going to give up on my grandson. And I'm not going to let these people get away with what they think they're doing. The lawyer said, well, it's all bureaucratic down and deep in the trenches, and and it's just the way it is. It's been going on like this for so long. So how many more tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of children's lives are going to be disrupted because of this false sense of justice? So that 22-year-olds can learn to grow up and be like adults. Well, they mock the teenagers, stomp on the little babies, and spit on the grandmas.